All right. And we just wanted to welcome you to the field. We're so happy you're here. And today we're going to be digging into really what G and I call our pillars, which are 5 tips of becoming a sass or strong ass sunflower. And we've really tried to kind of morph them into a moment where we can reflect on 2022 and look ahead to 2023. I already can't believe we're already 2 weeks in. But we wanted to kind of kick off. I know we already started before we started recording with introductions, but we'd love to kind of formally do them on the call. And I will kick off. So I'm Xana. I'm born as Susanna. You might hear some people call me Sue, but I prefer Xana or Z. I'm a mother of 4 beautiful babies. I've been married to my hot Uruguayan husband for, oh my gosh, almost 13 years. But outside of being a mother and a wife, which a lot of women kind of, some not all, but some, stick with those identities as their core. I recognized after I had my twins, my last 2 babies, that I really was losing myself in motherhood. I knew that it was a part of me, but it wasn't all of me. And so some other aspects of Z for myself are that I really love music. I really love multimedia. So video, my grandmother, Natalie knows, our grandmother loved making home movies. And I think that's just been really instilled in me to capture my family's life and capture my life. So podcasting and YouTubing and all that comes really naturally to me because it just reminds me of the good times with my grandma and with my sisters. I would say I also really love just personal growth and development. So finding new podcasts, reading new books, finding TED Talks, and always kind of looking for ways to improve myself. So those are 3 kind of specific things about me. And I'd love to pass the mic to G so you can get to know her a little better.
Hello, Strong Sunflowers. I'm so excited to be here. But a little bit about G. I love to travel. Traveling has become a huge part of my life these last couple of years. It first started when my grandfather took me for my graduation from high school to Dominican Republic, and I fell in love. I had no idea that this whole other world existed. I came from Cuba when I was 6, and then we came to America, and then my family never really traveled anywhere. We always just stayed local. I think we went to Disney once, but we went to 2 weeks to Dominican Republic, and I just fell in love. And since that day, traveling has become like, I don't even know. It's like, if not number 1, it's definitely a number 2 of like what I love and what brings me joy and passion. I would also say something that describes G would be an evolution of self. I am a Scorpio, so I'm all about the rebirth. I'm all about reinventing myself and asking those deep questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And I usually have like a cycle that I do. I say every birthday is like a new chapter. So every birthday is a rebirth for me. It's like chapter 27. What's going to happen? This year, I took myself to Italy and I celebrated in Capri. And literally, Santa can tell you, it was 12 o'clock and I was bawling in the bathroom in the middle of an island. And just crying because I'm like, Santa, I love you. Okay, I love you. And who am I? But I love those rebirth moments because it really allows me to kind of redefine myself. Who am I? And then that ties into my last thing, which I'm all about living life authentically. And I think it really ties all the travel, the rebirth, the reinventing myself, because it allows me to evolve. 25-year-old Giselle is definitely not 26-year-old Giselle, and 27-year-old Giselle will not be 28. And I just keep evolving as a person, and I love that aspect of growth. But who are you guys? We would love to know who you guys are. So Natalie, if you want to go first, Queen, tell us who you are and 3 favorite things about what identify you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Natalie Moon. I am also a huge lover of family and documenting and traveling, like you guys said. And since it's already 3 things, I'll throw in an extra bonus. I really am also searching for who I am. Like, I talked to Giselle a little bit about my story with Susanna on the line, and I was like, can I help with the Sunflowers podcast? Can I be like an episode like my mom was and like so many strong sunflowers are? And Giselle's like, tell me about your story. And I was like, just like word vomiting out of all these things that are going on with me. And they're like, girl, you need to like find out what your like goal and purpose is in life and sharpen that up, and then you'll be ready to share your strengths with the world. So that's where I am right now. I am on the stem part, as you guys say, working on that bloom that comes out when you do all the hard work and the digging and the fertilizing.
And Flor, what about you, Queen? Tell us about you and 3 things that define you.
Sure. Well, my name is Flor Garcia. I'm currently 29 years old. Right now, at this stage of my life, I would say the main thing about me is that I'm focusing on my relationship with God and finding my purpose as well. So many things I like, there's so many things I'm good at, but I don't know what my purpose is quite yet. So I'm working on that. I'm also a Scorpio. So that's why I was like, okay, get it just so I can totally understand that part of her personality, because there's the sweet one and then there's like the wild one, like what's going on. And I'm very creative. I like to talk. I like graphic design. I like anything creative really. So that's where I am right now. And I love to dance.
I love it. It's so nice to meet you all, Natalie. I know we've lived together, the majority of our youth, but I think it's cool to kind of hear how you are rediscovering yourself. And Flora, it's really nice to meet you too. And I know that we've interviewed you on our podcast for Los Girasoles Fuertes. If you didn't know, we're in Spanish too. So go listen, subscribe, share, and do all the things. But it's really great to hear that you're on this road to discovery as well. And that's really this purpose of life is to learn and grow and to figure out what we have the potential to do and then go after it, right? And so we really hope that this little virtual field trip will help you all unlock something within yourselves to continue towards that blue moment that you're seeking. So just to give you just a peek on what our mission is as the Strong Sunflowers, our main goal is to help every human live a wholehearted life so that they can advocate for themselves and others, right? It's really important that once you get to the point where you're blooming, you're looking behind you and you're seeing, how else can I help that person behind me? Is there a space for me to harvest? Like, can I show them? Can I mentor them? What's next for me? What's next on the horizon? Because like you all said, like we're always on this path of self-discovery. Guess what? Even when you somewhat figure yourselves out, that work doesn't stop. You have to continue kind of looking and digging and figuring out what chapter you're in so that you can consistently go after the best version of yourself. And if you just stay at chapter 5, guess what? Like you're missing out, right? You need to evolve. You need to go through that metamorphosis of the butterfly in order to reach your full potential. And then I'd love to pass it over to G, who's gonna dig into kind of the mission of these field trips.
Hello. So yes, these missions of these field trips, in our mind, we definitely view the Strong Sunflowers as more than a podcast. We literally view a field, like a whole field of strong ass women and men, children. We're gonna be all over the place. We just see it so vividly. But we wanted to create this physical space, whether in person or online, where we can connect with you guys. We want to make sure that sometimes being behind the podcast, we don't get to see you guys. And Santa and I connect, and we know we're putting positivity out there, but we don't know how it's landing. We don't know if you guys are using it or not. And these field trips really allow us to see that, to see how we are touching your life and how you guys touch our lives. Because every person that comes on the podcast touches our lives one way or the other. But I know there's way more strong ass sunflowers than we can fit in the pod alone. So with these field trips, it really helps us to encourage growth, not only for us, for you guys, but for this vision of the field that we have. And when we were creating this podcast, we first started with the faces. We were like, okay, the faces of a strong sunflower. And Sienna came up with this idea of building to bloom. Okay, we're like building this goal and this dream that we have. How do we do that? How do we achieve that? So we start with seeding, you know, getting the courage to plant our seed and being like, I have this goal that I really want to accomplish and I'm scared, but I'm going to plant it anyways. I'm going to go for it. And then you get your rooting where the goal starts taking up root and you start to get that passion, like Flor, like that mission, that purpose. And you're like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So those roots get deeper and deeper. And now you're like, okay, it's time to get out of the ground. Like I've been doing this work. It's time to shoot up and like really make it happen. And that's what we call the stem. Sometimes we're taking 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. And we're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? This is so hard. Blood, sweat, tears, late nights, even creating this podcast. Sometimes we're editing at 2 a.m, putting the kids to sleep, then filming episodes. It's wild out here, but because we have that purpose and that goal in mind of that bloom, we still do it. So after the stemming, we get that bloom, and we always talk about the bloom. It's one of my favorite parts. And the stem is growing on me because the stem is where we learn most of what builds our character. And then we reach that bloom moment, which is but a moment, but it's a beautiful moment, you know, the beautiful sunflower with the petals bright and yellow. And then we have our harvest, which this week's we posted our episode with Casa Danielle, and it was all about service. And that's giving is so much better than receiving. And that harvest part of everything, of reaching your goal and now helping someone else reach theirs, it might be better than the bloom moment because you're blooming, they're blooming, we're all blooming, and it kind of builds that vision of the field that we have. But when we created these steps, like the podcast has been here for about, oh my gosh, it's going to be 2 years in March. We have a special campaign for you guys in March, but it's going to be 2 years. So when we created this was our blueprint, and we would go with this. But now we were like, okay, we have this goal and dream and we're going to go for it. And yeah, but then we were like, but before we plant the seed, our soil needs to be ready to receive the seed. Because if we just throw seeds like in the sand or I don't know, on concrete, they're not going to really flourish if they don't have the nutrients, the sunlight, all those things that it takes for the seed to flourish. So then 5 tips on becoming a strong ass sunflower emerge. And we're like, we need these tips. Like before we go for our goals and our dreams and become these badass women, we really need to be working on the soil. And these 5 tips that are going to get you there. Tip number 1 is self-love and self-care. And if you haven't heard, we did an episode with Tiffany about this, and she really opened our blew our minds when it came to knowing the difference between self-love and self-care and why it's so important. Like self-love is truly loving yourself regardless of the self-care aspect. Self-care is when we get our hair done, when we get our nails done, when we wear our makeup, when we have the nice clothes. But self-love is when you take all that away and I still love my face with no makeup. I love my kinky curls. I love the little fat over here on my arm. I love myself. You know, I love myself regardless of it all. So it's such a core definition that is so important to us, and we preach it all the time. It's like, you are not doing self-love. You need to be doing more of it and loving yourself and who you are. But Sienna, what's tip number 2?
It's how to set boundaries and say no, which, as you know, someone that was raised somewhat to become a people pleaser, this has been really, really hard for me. I love saying yes. I love doing all the things. I think that as a kid, that was probably, you know, a love language of mine where I could be the doer and like get things done. I was a creative person. And so it was like, it was exhilarating just to be doing all these projects. And so I was always very busy and always doing something, just this busy little bee going all over the place. But what I'd recognize once I had my babies and was at that space where I was like, who am I? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm saying yes to all these other people's dreams, but what are my dreams? What is my purpose? Like, what is my hell yes right now? And so I've had to get really granular about what I want to accomplish in my life. And though this is still something that's really hard, and I really do still love projects, it brings me joy. And it's almost like an escapism for me to be doing things all the time. I've had to learn how to say no more effectively and more often, because that's what's going to help me get to my blue moment, right? So one book that I'd like to recommend that's really helped me set boundaries, really it's a bunch of books, and I quote this woman all the time on the podcast. If you've listened, then you know, Brene Brown. She's our girl. She has so many books about vulnerability and setting boundaries and living wholeheartedly. And her words have really helped me learn how to say no in a way that's still kind, that still aligns with my value system. So I think this number 2 has been a big one for me, on how to really lean into my strong sunfloweriness. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's something that I still really struggle with, but I've learned how to do in a way that's authentic to me.
And then we have tip number 3, fail your way to success. And this one's hard because in undergrad, I went to school as a pre-med to become a doctor. And I had this vision for myself, which I feel like a lot of us have this plan, this vision, this grand vision for our lives. And then our life comes and are like, you thought this was the plan. And I remember when I graduated with my bachelor's in biology, and I was like, I'm not starting medical school right away. Like, what's going on? You know? And that was 4 years ago. And I still haven't started medical school. And I really had to change my mindset in that, like, I'm a failure. Like, why should I even try? Like, I'm not getting this. Like, I'm not good at physics. Like, I would start and then I would stop because I was failing. I was failing the tests that I was taking. I was failing the practice exams. I was failing the questions. And that, for a really long time, defined me and didn't allow me to reach that blue moment, right? That success. But now, this podcast, everything that we learned from you guys, from the field, has taught us that we have to feel our way to success. Not everybody is born knowing. Not everybody is born knowing what to do. Not all the doctors are like, oh my gosh, yes, this happened overnight. No, it took a long ass stem for them to get to where they are right now. The stem for them was going through the MCAT, failing it, taking it again. There's so many doctors that I've talked to that they're like, yeah, I took that test like 4 times. It was hard, but you got to pass through. You have to go through that stem to reach that blue moment. So tip number 3 has been hard because sometimes failing, we're like, we shouldn't even try. This is not for me. But it's not. It's part of the process. You fail and you continue to fail and you keep going. You're like, okay, what did I learn from this fail? And what can I apply for the next time? So that's really important.
I love that. Have any of you watched Abbott Elementary at all? Yeah, Natalie. Okay. I'm not a big like TV watcher or, Netflix binger, but sometimes I kind of get in these modes where I want to just watch it. And my husband's a teacher. And we used to love Modern Family and would watch it all the time together because it was very relatable across all generations. And Abbott Elementary is now that for us because my husband and I relate to it on an adult level. He relates to it on a teacher level. And then the students, my kids really relate to, and we are just cracking up all the time together. And I became obsessed with one of the main characters, Quinta Brunson, who actually wrote the show and stars in it and is winning all these awards right now. And Oprah just interviewed her on her Super Soul podcast. And I listened to it this morning and she said something about failure that really struck me. And she said, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in failure. And Oprah was like, I'm with you, girl. I don't either. Like, there is always a lesson. There is always a door. Like when one door closes and you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so shamed that a door just slammed in my face. it's because another one's about to open and you just need to look for the possibilities. So it just really struck me. I love that we included failure in this. And I really love Quinta and Oprah's mindset where it's not even failure. Like, don't even define it as failure. It's another opportunity to kind of move on to that next chapter in your life and be reborn, like Giselle was saying. So just wanted to add that into tip 3, but tip 4 is learn to ask for help. How many of you sometimes feel shamed when you have to ask a friend or family member or even a complete stranger for help? Is it something that's difficult to do for you? Natalie, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's especially embarrassing when you have to repeat ask for help. Like, hey, I don't remember what we did last time. Like, you feel kind of like you're a bum and that you're just not getting it. Whether it's an assignment or like something that's mandatory for life, like, hey, I didn't make rent this month. Can I have a few $100s? It's like, yeah, sometimes you just need to be humble and say, I am not that person that can be completely independent, super independent, because that is a delicate balance. Like, you don't want to push everybody away from you and say, I don't need you. I can do this on my own, because that's a setup for hard times.
Definitely. I totally align with that. Flora, do you have anything to say about asking for help? Like, is that something that comes easy to you, or is that something that is a little difficult?
I think it's very difficult. I don't know if it's because I'm Hispanic or my personality type, but for me, it's like, no. And I think a lot of times now, women have been made to be like, we can do what men can do. So it's like hard for us to be soft. It's harder for us to be feminine. It's hard for us to just be like, hey, like, I can't handle it. So that has definitely been a journey for me.
It's hard. It's hard to humble yourself and get into that state where you're admitting that you don't know the answers. And sometimes I just think of even like our education system and how we were raised in our family units. Like many of us kind of are brought up to believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness, right? But in all honesty, we believe that it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of knowing who we are and where we come from, and what we need to kind of continue to progress towards that bloom moment. This is something that I've gotten better at. I think through my motherhood journey, it's been something that's been vital, and a story I'll share to kind of help you paint the picture. Is actually, I want to tell you 2 stories. So first off, it's having twins is no joke. Like, we had 3 babies in diapers when the twins were born, because Tito was potty training and had pull-ups, and then the twins were newborns. And I remember at one point, Esteban and I were so tired. We both got the flu. The twins, needed to eat and drink and have their diapers changed. Tito had so much energy and needed attention and love and care. And Joaquin as well, being the older brother, kind of feeling left out and alone. And we were just like depleted. And I remember Esteban had one baby, I had another baby, and we were just in the shower crying because we felt so sick and so weak, but didn't really have anyone to help. And Giselle called and, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm so sick and I don't know what to do. And she, instead of me asking for help, she's like, I'm coming over, right? She's that person that was like, I got you, go to bed. I'm taking care of all 4 of them. And so there's people in your field that will know, they'll see your vibe, they'll read your body language, and they will just give you the help. And the second story I wanted to share is recently we've picked up hiking as an activity. So G and I did it in Hawaii, got completely lost. And it was just a moment where we were like, okay, we need to find humans. And we were like calling out for them, like, humans, where are you? Are you on this path? We're lost. We don't know where to go. And they helped us get to the waterfall we were looking for. And then come back to Austin, Texas. I go hiking with my family yesterday, actually, on the Greenbelt Trail. And I'm starting to think it's me. I'm the problem. It's me, because we got lost again. And my husband at the time, he's like, no, we don't need to find help. And I said, no, like we need to go back to the path where there's humans and ask them how to get out of this trail. Like, we don't know the path. Our GPS isn't showing us the right path. The kids are starting to whine, like, let's ask for help. And so the first person we asked had no idea either. He's like, I've been walking around in circles for like an hour. I don't know where I'm going either. We're like, okay, cool, man. Thanks for the heads up. But then we kept asking, right? And so sometimes the answer will be, no, I can't help you. But that doesn't mean you can't continue to ask someone else, right? Because eventually, after we talked to a third person, they're like, hey, it's just a 10-minute walk that way. And then you're going to take a left and it'll take you right out of the trail. And we knew exactly where to go, right? And so I think these stories really show you that asking for help is a really humbling experience. Sometimes you might get no's, and that sometimes even hurts worse than mustering up the courage to ask for help. But continue to push through, because eventually it'll probably help you to get a little bit closer to that blue moment.
Definitely. Keep asking. I've gotten so lazy now that I'm like, I'm just gonna cut to the chase and ask, because I don't have time. Like, if I go to Publix and I'm like, where's the milk? I don't have time to walk around Publix and find the milk. Just tell me where the milk is. Aisle 2, perfect. We're going to aisle 2. It just brings things closer. But
Talking
number
of milk,
5.
talking of milk,
Yeah.
sometimes the destination changes. And you might be
Yeah.
like, I've been here before. I know the milk is here, and now it's not. So you've got to rely on your field to direct you to the new changes.
Yes, especially like it could be a Publix, but all Publix have like different ways that they arrange things. So I'm like, I have no idea where I am, and I'm just gonna ask for help from the get-go, because why not? But tip number 5, we're gonna kind of split it into 2. Advocating for yourself and others, but I'm doing advocating for yourself. I think this tip ties into tip number 1, self-love. When you really love yourself, you don't want to betray yourself. I feel like when we don't have self-love, we betray ourselves. We put ourselves in positions that are not best for us, where we are not the priority, where it makes us feel unwanted, where we can't set boundaries, when we can't say no, when failure really makes us feel really uncomfortable. And when we learn to advocate for ourselves, that's when we're like, okay, I'm advocating for G. I'm saying no to this because that makes Giselle anxious. I'm saying no to this because last time this got me in depression. I am saying no to this. And you just start advocating for you because you love yourself. And if you don't advocate for yourself, who's going to? It takes all those tips to get to tip number 5. But once you learn to advocate for yourself, you're unstoppable. And this reminds me of, I was younger at the time. I mean, Santa, I met Santa about like 7 years ago in a church activity doing church things. But I've always been like a little spicy, Scorpio, Floor, you know what I'm talking about. I've always been a little spicy, like walking on the edge. And in church, we weren't supposed to work on Sunday. And that was one thing that I really took. And I'm like, I don't work on Sunday because this is the Lord's day and I'm not going to work on Sunday. This is my priority. And I remember I got a job interview and I went in and it was this 6'5", 300-pound men. And I was like, okay. And he was like looking at my interview and he was like, well, I don't know if I can hire you because it says here that you can't work on Sunday. And I believe at the time I was like 18, 19-year-old G. So she wasn't this elevated, this evolved. But I remember I looked at him and I was like, well, I believe in this and I believe Sunday is the Lord's day and I don't work on Sunday. And for little G to say that to this like 6'5", 300-pound man, and for him to be like, I respect that. You're hired. You don't have to work on Sunday. And I was like, what? But imagine if I didn't advocate for myself. Imagine if I put myself in a position where I am not aligning with my values. And then I'm working on Sunday, knowing that I don't want to be here and that it makes me feel bad and anxious because that's not what aligns with like my faith. So once you learn how to advocate for yourself, you have that self-love, it all kind of ties in together and it really makes you into this amazing person that now you can advocate for others. So Santa, I know that you love advocating for others.
It is true. I do. And I think that when you find your voice, it sets you up to be an inspiration to others. And I've seen that in my own life, that when I've, you know, put myself out there and taken a risk, it gives other people courage to do the same. I think another thing, and it really kind of ties into the harvest, it's, you know, our last phase of becoming our last phase of becoming a strong sunflower. It enables us to show people that we are allies, that we are accomplices, that we care deeply about them. And I think that's another form of, you know, yes, that internal self-care, self-love for us, but that external charity, love, guidance to other people, it then regenerates them to kind of find that self-love in themselves, right? So I think for me, I've kind of, outside of the religious view, I've taken a more, I don't know if I want to say political stance, but like marching alongside LGBTQ youth in a Christmas parade is something that was really important to me. It didn't necessarily align with, you know, a certain religion that I follow, but it was something that was important to me to show that group of people in Sarasota, Florida, that I stood in solidarity with them and that I believe that love is love. I think another piece is forming relationships with people that have different faith backgrounds from you, right? Showing up at a Jewish temple, showing up at a mosque, showing up at a predominantly Black church and saying, hey, I'm Xana. I want to help out. How can I get involved with you? I love what you're doing, right? Supporting them on their mission, I think, is a way that you can advocate for others, and just form really deep connections and relationships with other people. I think that's what's brought me some of my most joyous moments in my life, is really learning about other cultures, other faith practices, other religions, and seeing how I can show up, finding the similarities instead of pointing out the differences. It's so easy to say, oh, they're different, they're not like us. But when you can find a way to find the similarity, or even if there is a difference, advocating for why they're different, can really change the game and really open up a whole new world to you. So that's a little bit about our tips. Anything stand out? I know that we've been kind of talking at you for quite some time, but I'd love to hear kind of what tips stand out to you, and whether it's something that you practice, you think you're really good at, or it's something that you want to develop.
I would say what really stood out to me was the failure way to success, what Giselle said about you take 3 steps forward and then 4 back. I feel like I'm kind of there because of the self-discovery. You kind of focus on something so much, but then you kind of let go of some things that you already learned, and it's like, I already learned this. Why am I having to relearn this again? But I think it made me feel good to know that I was not alone in that, and that, you know, to give myself compassion in that area.
Girl, my therapist says it all the time. Give yourself grace. Like it takes people several times, several instances to be able to learn a skill, right? You're not going to get it one and done. Like, I love that that's what stood out to you. And it's a good reminder for all of us that that's not an easy tip to align with and to follow through with, because sometimes you feel like you are a failure, but it's not about you being a failure. That's not how you should define yourself. You are just a human being experiencing something where it didn't go as planned, and you're taking that lesson from it, and then you're moving forward, right? So thanks for sharing, Flor. Nat, you got anything?
I've just been doing a lot of lessons for my job, for subbing for random classes about the Martin Luther King legacy. So I think that he would be a strong advocate for all of your tips. He may not have seen in his lifetime more than like the march in Montgomery, Alabama. Is that where they were? He won the Nobel Prize for his work for peaceful protesting, and his family might have thought that when he was murdered that his vision was lost. But luckily, even though so many people were against his values that he was fighting for, probably a lot of people in our family were, let's just keep things the way it is. It's been working for so long. Let's just not but touch the status quo. And we still have to fight that fight. It's not going to be over in the next 100 years. So I love reading about failures and how they turn into successes, authors who get turned down multiple times before they have an award-winning bestseller, and athletes who get cut from the team in junior high and they just keep fighting for it. Do you have any other examples of that?
I'm like, Michael Jordan, baby. We were definitely Chicago Bulls fans as kids, and he was such an inspiration to us. But to know that he got cut from his like junior high or high school team and was like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna keep practicing. And then he's like the most world-renowned basketball player of our generation. That's for sure. But those are really good examples. And I love what you said about MLK. On the podcast this week, we talked a lot about that. And as I was like creating content for social, I was following an idea that G had where she's like, oh my gosh, like we are Martin Luther King's dream. Like he advocated for, people of different races to be able to sit at the same table together and ideate and collaborate and do things. And I was like, oh my gosh. So like I went back to like some of the first pictures we ever took as we were developing our dream of this podcast to where we're at now, and put it to the I Have a Dream speech. And it like moved me so much because I was like, gee, like we couldn't even been in the same bathroom together if we would have, wanted to start this podcast in the 50s. But because Martin Luther King and the freedom fighters advocated not only for themselves, but for other people, and spoke up and sometimes lost their lives or went to prison or, did these really hard things and put themselves at risk. It opened the doors for us to create this, right? Where we can be in this Zoom room together and talk about these amazing things. Just to think that if somebody didn't speak up for on the behalf of other people, like this might not be happening right now. We might still be segregated, which is just crazy. So one man's dream led to so many other people being able to accomplish incredible things, right? By taking risk.
Adding in Rosa Parks, she has an autobiography that we can study, but she also, each one of these is ticking off in my brain that she, in her life's mission and her values, that everyone thinks of her now to say no, and to set boundaries, and all of the other tips. She was a huge part of the civil rights movement.
You can surely say she was a strong ass sunflower, that is for sure.
He sure was. She's like, no, I'm not moving. I'm sitting right here. I love it. I love how these strong, strong sunflowers throughout histories. We need to do one with the tips. And it's like, these are the tips. It's how to say no and set boundaries. Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Nat. I think that's your podcast episode. You're going to tie it to history, baby. I love it. All right, y'all, we are going to do an activity now. So this is going to kind of take your understanding of the tips. And if you'd like, you can take a screenshot of these now because you will need them. But if not, I can toggle between slides. I'm fine with that too. So I'll pause for a moment in case you want to take a screenshot or write them down or just put them into your photographic memory. And then we'll move forward with an activity. 5, 4, 3, 2. Floor, you're good? Okay. All right. So our activity, the first half with me is going to be about looking back, right? We can't really plan where we're going if we don't know where we came from. So we want you to reflect on 2022 and think about the goals and intentions you had set last January. Did you accomplish those goals? Did you fall short of some of those goals? Did you incorporate any of the tips that we just talked about? Because I'll share my story in a moment where you'll see that I have answers for all of these. Were there tips that maybe you did not utilize and it impacted you in a negative way? And so when I was working through this activity on my own, before y'all start your own reflection, my big goal last year was my physical health. I've always been a very active, athletic person. I was a collegiate cheerleader, a gymnast, loved sports. But I grew up as a latchkey kid in the 90s. It was easier to just eat Hot Pockets and toaster strudels than it was to actually eat clean. And so I form a really unhealthy relationship with processed food. It's just fast. It's what I'm used to. And so my goal was to not only I wanted to run a marathon. That was my big goal of 2022, but I wanted to do it in a way where I was in the best shape of my life. I wanted to really learn how to be a better advocate for my nutritional health. So I accomplished running a marathon. So here's my sweet medal. I was so excited to do it. I went back to Hawaii to accomplish this goal that I had for 15 years, but was too afraid to do it. Thankful for the people in my field that encouraged me, Giselle, Chris Chandler, Chelsea, all these people that were there and wanted to be there. My husband was a big advocate for me running and participating. I think where I fell short was I went through a really hard time. Natalie and we lost our grandmother to brain cancer. I moved to Texas and had kind of gone out of my comfort zone of Florida. And so I fell back into my tendencies of emotional eating when I was sad or depressed or stressed. So I'd lean back into eating a lot of processed food that was not good for me. And so I would say the tips that I incorporated were failing my way to success. Anytime that maybe I fell short on a run, I would find a way to keep going. I asked for help. I talked to friends that had already run marathons, people that wanted to run with me, and really found a group of cheerleaders that helped me kind of push towards that goal. I would say tips that I did not utilize that I could have was finding a better balance between my self-love and self-care. Because eating my feelings was not going to help me towards my goal of being in the best shape of my life. I think setting boundaries and saying no to myself would have been helpful. And then, yeah, I think those are the two that I'd say that I could have utilized. And because of me not utilizing them, it led to, at the end of 2022, I got a call from my doctor and they're like, yo, Queen, you pre-diabetic. And I'm like, what? So now I'm being forced to change my eating patterns because even though I ran a marathon, I still haven't kind of cracked the code of knowing how to nourish my body for fuel and not for comfort. And so now there's a health implication. And so I actually went to my doctor today and I'm going to be working with an endocrinologist, and the goal is now remaining the same for 2023, which I'll get into in a moment. But it's been real. It's been hard, but we're doing the thing. So I'd love for you to reflect on your own experience. So we'll give you all about 5-10 minutes. If you just want to give us a thumbs up or put in the chat that you're done, to just take a moment to reflect on your 2022. And if you'd like, I can go back to the tip screen. Just let me know, come off of mute, and I can put that back up there for you. And then we'll talk about it together. Do you all have any questions, or does it feel clear? Got it. All right, go ahead and take 5 minutes, and we'll set the timer now. All right, y'all, we have about 1 minute left. Does anybody need to see the tip screen? You got them all memorized. Y'all are too good. All right, perfect. So wrap up your reflection and then be prepared to kind of share what insight you uncovered. All right, we are at 5 minutes, so I'd love to hear from y'all. Who would like to go first? Lord.
I can go first. Okay. I would say a goal that I set last year, the main one that I was thinking about was my career. I was in sales and I was like ready like to rock it, my best year ever. And instead I left my career, fired myself from that career because it was not working out and it was like everything in my life changed. Um what did I accomplish? A lot of growth in myself. So, like learning to slow down and really work on my inside instead of my outside environment, but instead of, the things that I needed to improve. Um, where did I fall short? Well, I fell short because I'm still not sure which career path I'm going to take next. So I'm like in that in between of just kind of focusing on myself. What tips did I incorporate? I would say self-love and self-care because it took a lot of self-love to look in the mirror. It took a lot of self-care to be, patient with myself. Also setting boundaries and learning to say no. So, I had a whole life and then I had to learn to say no to that life that I had to be able to create a new one. I would also say fail my way to success because I learned that by literally everything falling apart that I knew it was going to get me to where I really had to go. And then I would say the tips that I did not utilize would be learning to ask for help because I was like in a really bad situation. Even though I did receive help, it was kind of like they made me get the help and I could have used more help that later on I received, but it just made me struggle for longer, which was no fun. And then advocating for others, I didn't really share much of what was going on with my life with anyone. I kind of just was by myself and I feel like I needed it, but at the same time, now that I was like on the other side, now that I talked to other friends and what they're going through and what they've been going through, I'm like, wow, they could have really used me. But you live and you learn, and here I am.
I love that, right? It's not a failure, it's a lesson. And now you know next time that when you advocate for yourself and use your voice, that alone can be a door for advocating for other people to say, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. You gave me a voice, you gave me language, right? So what a beautiful reflection, Flora. Thank you so much for sharing. Who would
Yeah,
like
of
to
course.
share next? I think I muted you. Here, let me unmute you. Ask to unmute. Okay.
Okay. I am just reading from my little notes that I wrote. I think a goal for a year ago this year was that I was gonna continue going to counseling and to work through some personal issues, like marital issues and the family that I grew up issues, just like working throughout all these things. And I was able to accomplish that goal mid-year. I moved from Maryland to Texas, kind of like in a very weird situation. Like I did not choose to do this. I just had to follow my kids. Xana knows all about that. I also needed to lay a groundwork to have a career to support myself after a toxic relationship. So I also left my support system of the last almost 20 years on the East Coast to start brand new. So about the tips for being a strong sunflower, I've never really had a problem asking for help. I kind of get embarrassed a little bit when I repeat myself and ask for help multiple times, but I do have a problem saying no and setting boundaries. I love to just like be everything to everyone and hope that people will be the same for me. And I am in awe of people who set strong boundaries for themselves. Um, and so I've learned now that sometimes if you don't set strong boundaries, other people will set them for you. And that's a hard place to be. And you have to learn how to adapt and move on. The analogy that I thought of that is that sometimes like you want to choose something on your browser, like if you are filling out a form online, and sometimes that button that you want to pick for your life is shaded in gray and it's not choosable because you're not following like the directions that you're supposed to go through. So I don't know if that applies to anybody, if you can think of anything that's affected your life. I have grown stronger this year advocating for myself and for others, like my children. Speaking out is something that maybe I thought that I was strong in, but I don't think I would have had the life experiences if I had actually learned all that I could learn of how to advocate for myself. So I've been doing that a lot in written word, and I feel amazing looking back at all of my thoughts written down on paper, knowing that I am worth something. I'm very into self-love and self-care. Susanna and I watched something when we were younger about the church that we were in had some like videos, and there was one that had a man in the desert, and he was so thirsty. He was parched. He was about to die from thirst. And he got to a pump in the middle of the desert, and there was a like soda bottle, like a Coke can of water next to a well, a pump. And it says, prime the pump, pour this water on the well, and it'll get started, and it'll give you as much water as you can ever have. And he was dumb, and he just drank that little bit of water that was meant to prime the pump, to make that pump work for so many pools full of water he could have had, but he just took that little thing. So I think when we are giving ourselves self-love and taking care of ourselves first, then we can care for as many people in our field that are there that need us and need our energy, because we took the time to first focus on ourselves.
Okay, Natalie, look at these analogies. I'm here for it. I love the way your mind works. And I related to, I've been filling out forms lately because Joaquin is going to be going to middle school. And so we're just kind of looking at all the options for schools. And what's been annoying to me is the autocorrect. Like if you're not paying attention and you say, no, I want this word, I don't want the other word, stop changing it. It can be really, really annoying. So I totally relate to the form thing. And I love the analogies that you shared as well. Gigi, do you want to share with the field your reflection for 2022?
Oh, hello. 2022 was a hot mess. 2022, I don't know. It was hot, and then it was mess, and then it was hot again. So it was a mixture of all. But what goals did I set for 2022? I wanted to travel. Of course, number one, love traveling. I wanted to take my MCATs for medical school, and I wanted to read a book a day. What did you accomplish? I mean, a day? No, a month. Sorry, a book a month. But what did I accomplish? Only 1 out of 3. Okay, 1 out of 3. The most important, right? Traveling. I got to go to Peru and I hiked Machu Picchu. I got to go to Europe and go to Capri, Italy, and go to Spain. And then we got to go to Hawaii. Like these were like all dream vacations that I never in a million years I thought I would be. But here I am living my best life. So that was great. Where did I fall short? In the other two. Okay. I did not make an effort, or I don't want to say an effort, but I did not make an actionable plan to study for the MCATs and take my MCATs and actually make a routine to make that happen. And I actually lost my paper where I wrote my goals for the year. So I literally found it the last day. And I'm like, I haven't seen you all year. So no, I did not accomplish almost like nothing on the list because it wasn't visible to me. So yeah. What tips did you incorporate last year? So last year I definitely incorporated self-care because traveling, I love traveling. I definitely incorporated setting boundaries and saying no, especially when it comes to my family. Family, that's a hot topic for me, but just setting boundaries, being a Hispanic, and that gets me sometimes in hot waters with my mom because she doesn't understand. She just thinks that as children, we should always say yes. And I'm the black sheep of the family, which is like, no. But at the same time, which tips did I not utilize? The same ones. Okay. I did not set boundaries with myself. And I didn't set boundaries with my situationship. I was in a situationship for like almost 2 years that led me to not have self-love for myself, leading me to like this limbo of like, who am I? I don't even know who I am. And I was just feeling anxious all the time. So that led me to have like bad mental health. And then I had got into a car accident and that didn't help because I already didn't know who I was. And now like my car was gone and I had tied a lot of my value to that. And I was like, what the hell? What the hell's going on? So I had multiple mini breakdowns throughout the year. But definitely that helped me like, just take a better look at my life and be like, okay, I need to love myself, advocate for myself, stop betraying myself, set boundaries with myself and other people. So like those are the ones that I'm taking into the year.
I love it, G. I love it. And you reminded me, I know that you're reading Atomic Habits right now. And one of the quotes that James Clear stated, and it really helped me in my chapter of life in 2022, is that we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fail to the level of our systems. And so a lot of times when we look back in each and every one of our stories, there wasn't a system in place that enabled us to uphold that stem and reach the blue moment. But at the same time, we're humans and we found ways to have blue moments, even though there were trials and tribulations throughout every single one of our stories, whether it was divorce or losing a job or quitting a job or losing a relationship or having health issues or losing someone that you loved. Like those things happen in every single one of our stories, right? We can't avoid those sometimes. Like that is the thing we call life. There are blue moments and there are tons of stemming moments. But I think what really helps us is when we know of these tips and we apply these tips as we, find them suitable for whatever chapter we're in, it helps us navigate the hardship of life a little more resiliently, and helps us kind of lean towards that blue moment in spite of the difficulties that we're facing. So thank you for reflecting with me. I'm going to pass the mic over to G, who's going to take us towards kind of casting vision for the future.
2023 is our year. It's my year. I am manifesting the hell out of this year. Like, this year is mine. It's literally mine for the taking. I don't know what to say. I don't even know how I know this, but I literally feel it in my bone. And every time I talk about starting the year off with intention, I get just goosebumps, because I know that it's tangible. I know that all of our blue moments are tangible and we can reach them. And this is a blue moment right here. It's second week of the year. We're like, yeah, we're starting webinars, and we're doing this, and we're doing public speaking, and we're signing up for that. And yes, we're capable. We're doing it. We're doing it. So I think this year is all about intention and putting yourself out of your comfort zone, because you can do it. You are capable. So when we cast our vision for 2023, what goals do you have for 2023? You guys already know travel is definitely on the list for me. I'm taking myself to Egypt for my birthday. I'm going to Texas in March. I'm going to Puerto Rico in March. I am going to Portugal, France, Switzerland. Then I'm going to take myself for a month to Central America, go to Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador. And because I have intention with my year, I have already started looking. I have already started saving. I already started like figuring out how I can make it happen, because it's going to happen if that's my intention. What will you accomplish and how will you do it? Again, with that intention, and with what Santa said before, like, we have this goal, but sometimes we don't think of that stem. We just think of the blue moment. Oh my gosh, I want to be a doctor. But like, it took like blood, sweat, tears, long hours of studying, not going to family birthday parties, not being with family, staying home on a beautiful Saturday morning and studying. So we don't really picture that part. So I think it's like her quote said from Atomic Habits, is very important for us to focus on the path to our goals and how and we're going to accomplish this. And another thing from reading Atomic Habits that he talks about is winners and losers have the same goal. The winners and the losers have the same goal. So the goal is not what is differentiating them. It's the path. It's the journey to the goal, the plan, what they're doing, the actions that they're doing to reach this goal. So that's very important. And what obstacle could you face? And the stem, we have to go through the stem to reach the bloom. So the stem is the obstacle. What obstacles can get in your way to your goals for 2023? When you're planning with intention, what obstacles do you see yourself like, I just lost my job 2 weeks ago? That's an obstacle. But okay, how are we gonna get over it? Oh, we're gonna find another job. And you know me as a Scorpio, I got 2 jobs, 3 jobs. You already know. Just in case one drops, I got a backup to the backup to the backup. That's very important. But then also, what tips will you utilize to help you achieve your goals? So for me, this year, I'm definitely utilizing all of the tips. Like, this year it's all bloom and harvest for me, at least. But I'm definitely using self-care. I am taking myself to both dates. I'm so excited for this. I have 1 solo date planned each month, and it's just me doing something that I love, whether it's trying a new restaurant or going to go see a concert. I'm going to this candlelight concert. I'm so excited for next week. But I'm doing that because I love myself, and I want to show myself that I love myself and not wait for someone else to do it. So I'm gonna take G out on a date. And I'm also doing boundaries and saying no, but I'm really good at saying no to other people, but I'm really applying that to myself. I am setting boundaries with myself and saying no to myself. Like, I was telling Sienna, it's only been 2 weeks since 2023 started. And it literally, for me, it feels like it's been months because I have been so focused and so clear in my vision and my intention that I get up in the morning and I do my morning routine. I set that boundary with myself. You're doing this. You're going to the gym. You're reading your book. You're starting a YouTube channel. You are doing this for the podcast. Like, you are doing it. And then failing my way best, I am just gonna continue to try and fail, try and fail, try and fail. What have I learned? And like starting a YouTube, I don't know what I'm doing, but trying and fail, trying and fail. Um, Definitely asking for help. Like Santa, she is a guru when it comes to all things technology, and she helps so much behind the scenes with the podcast and creating these beautiful slides and all the techie stuff. But she has also helped like in creating all the other things like the YouTube, the TikToks, like all those things. So she's amazing at what she does. And last but not least, advocating for myself and others and really leaning into that harvest, like volunteering in Casa de Miel. And I just want to like find new ways to volunteer and give back to the community. So let's take some time for you guys to write your 2023 goals and kind of answer these questions and how you're applying the 5 tips to becoming a strong ass sunflower into these goals to make sure when you guys come back to us for Building to Bloom in October, baby, December, you're like, yeah, G, like I did this, and this, and we got it. So we'll give you guys 5 to 10 minutes. Just give us a thumbs up, like if you finish early, and may the odds be forever in your favor. You guys take your time. And you guys, I totally forgot to put a timer, so I'm just gonna give you one more minute. Okie dokes, queens, we are back. So Natalie, would you like to go first?
Sure. While we've been having this field trip, I've been walking on the track for over an hour, and I just hit my 10,000 steps, so that's like 3 miles. So a big goal that I have for 2023 is that I want to get out of the um obesity range for my BMI. So I would need to lose 15, 20 pounds, which is totally doable. And I don't want to just hit it and then go back. I want to hit it and stay with it. So I am focusing on my hydration. I'm focusing on my hitting my macros, movement, stuff like that. So that's how I'm gonna be able to do that. I'm tracking it every morning. I wake up, first thing I do is wash up, take my thyroid medicine, and write down my weight. And it is a fun thing to watch your weight fluctuate from day to day because it changes all the time. But I'll obviously have temptation. I'll obviously have other obstacles like laziness and not wanting to get with the program and wanting to fall back into my old habits. So maybe some things I'll need to learn are to say no. I have never been known to turn down food ever. Hey, do you want to try this food? Yes, I do. Do you want some of this? Yes, I do. Can I have soup, please? Like, that's me. Like, I come to Susanna's house and it's empanadas every day. It's tons of yummy kid snacks. I'm like, I do not need to be doing this. So, that's all.
What obstacles could you face in 2023 with your goals?
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit. Just like losing that drive, losing the focus, and then I will slide back. So that's hard to do.
Yeah, I totally understand that because reading right now, Atomic Habits, by the way, if you haven't read it, you need to read it because it's so good. But
Okay.
the funny thing that you mentioned is like being lazy. He talks about that we are not really lazy, or it's not that we don't have discipline, is that we don't put ourselves in a disciplinary like environment. For example, if you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle and you go to the grocery store and you buy the cookies and you have the cookies in your space in your home, guess what? I mean, you're there all the time. You're gonna eat a cookie. You're gonna do it because it's there and it's obtainable. It's right in your face. But
Yeah.
if we create an environment with discipline and whatever we're trying to accomplish, then it just makes it easier for us who have that discipline to be like, oh, I'm drinking water today because that's the only thing that's in my house. I don't have to buy soda, you know. But that makes it easier because if it was in my home, then I would definitely drink more soda. So
Love it.
How about you, Floor? What are your 2023 goals?
I have two main goals. One is to grow spiritually closer to God and, just connect with my purpose. And I also want to start getting ready to build a home. So I'm single, okay? But I kind of feel like that's like what's coming up for me. So I definitely just be more intentional with, the time I spend with God, and also like learning to be a better piece of the home I'm in now. So bettering my relationship with my parents, seeing what I can do for my home that I have right now, I think will help me a lot. Some of my obstacles, I think my main obstacle is myself and my paradigm that I have, because that always seems to get in my way. But I think that if I can just slow down enough to really take things in before reacting, that could help me. And then some of the tips I'm going to use are the self-love, just really moving with that, what's going to bring me joy, what's going to really, make me happy and get me to a good place where I'm like really loving myself, setting boundaries, also like learning to say no to certain things because I'm going to be in a different stage of my life, and asking for help from those who have traveled in similar paths.
Love what you said, because it's such a Scorpio thing, like I don't know it, but yeah, I'm about to have a family, so I need to get ready. That's literally me. So last year I was like, I need to like learn how to like balance working and cooking. Like I need to learn how to cook for myself, because I guess I have to feed my kids. I guess I have to do that. So like I started to like cook in the kitchen, and I bought an air fryer, and it's been a lot of fun, because before I was very like, cooking is not for me. I'm not doing it. I'm just eating out. But that was like that Giselle in that chapter where it's like, I'm the whole world. But something inside of me, it's like, your family is coming, honey. You need to get prepared. So I'm like, fine. Like adding like cleaning into my routine and adding cooking into my routine. By the way, I make a killer roasted red pepper sauce from scratch. It's so good for my pasta. But yeah, that's been totally a part of mine too, of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a family. Like someone's gonna depend on me. I should get it together.
Yes.
It's hard out here.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn, Queen.
All right. So 2023, I actually have a theme. It's I am financially and physically fit. But some of the goals that kind of go under that headline per se is that the Strong Sunflowers are paid public speakers. I am debt free. I am a UF graduate, which means I will no longer be spending money on grad school, which will help me be debt free. I'm physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally in the best shape of my life, which means I'm out of the danger zone for prediabetes, and I feel confident in my clothes again. And then last is I have a job that gives me autonomy with my time, which in turn enables me to put more into my YouTube channel with my family and the Strong Sunflowers podcast with Gigi. I think some obstacles or how I'll accomplish this. I think with the speaking, we're already doing it. We're just manifesting and then talking to people that open doors. And so far, we've already had 2 organizations, so one school and one nonprofit book us. We're not paid yet, I don't think. Well, maybe we can negotiate it, but it's not officially paid yet. But we're using that system to help open doors, and I have no doubt that by the end of the year we'll have something booked. About debt free, I need to relearn finance, because Natalie can attest, like just in the environment we grew up in, like debt was something that was okay. Shopping was something you did when you were sad. Like I have a really unhealthy relationship with money. And so I'm unpacking that personally, going to therapy for that. And I'm reading books that are going to help me learn financial literacy. And then putting it into practice and kind of using the snowball effect to pay off credit cards that I still have. Graduating UF, I have 2 more semesters. So it's just me showing up and doing my work and getting the grades that will help me get my degree. Best shape. I currently have the goal of working out 5 to 7 times per week, moving my body at least 30 minutes per day. And I'm using either Apple Fitness Plus or my gym to accomplish my goal, or just running. And then I found some cool runs. So Natalie, I know your goal is health as well. I found some really cool runs in Austin. So if that's something you want to do with me, I'd love a partner and an accomplice in this, because working out in health is like a scary journey sometimes, especially if you're doing it alone. So let me know if you want to run with me. And then the diabetes piece is I'm going to an endocrinologist and fixing my nutrition so that I no longer eat food for comfort. I eat it for fuel. And then just continuing therapy, because I'm obviously eating and spending money because there's a deeper root. And I need to continue to unpack that so that I stop those habits that are putting me in the place where I am in debt or overweight. And then the other question was, what obstacles could I face? So my bad food habits chasing me, and my spending habits chasing me. So if I get into a space where I'm stressed from work or sad or depressed or anxious, maybe choosing to go on a run instead. And then I think the tips that will really help me accomplish my goals are all of them. So this year I'm going to be continuing to say no and set boundaries. Self-love and self-care, I think, is the biggest. I told G this when we were in Hawaii, like the whole time we were surfing or I was running the marathon, it was like, there'd just be moments where I would just be ashamed of what my body looked like. And I'd like, why take away that blue moment? Why like make it have that weird vibe about my stomach? No, I had 4 kids. Of course, my stomach doesn't look the way it does when I'm 19, and that's okay. And I love this chapter I'm in. So I'm really working on that self-love, self-care piece, being an advocate for myself, especially with my health, I think is a big deal. And then giving a voice to other people as well. Failure to success. Like, I know with my health journey that there's going to be a lot of failure, but I'm going to keep standing up and trying. And then of course, asking for help, getting help from my therapist, getting help from my doctors, getting help from my field, will continue to push me towards my goals in 2023. And I'm doing the last part. I was like, oh, right. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. So we wanted to kind of walk you through the last half of this by reflecting yet again. So we've talked about a lot today. We've walked you through the phases of a strong sunflower. We've talked about the tips that help prepare your soil. As G and I were reflecting, it's also what helps you get through the stem. So as we did this last activity, navigating the obstacles is a really important part, because your mind will do what you tell it to. And if you are thinking ahead and around corners, you can help convince yourself to be that resilient version of yourself, instead of allowing the stem to kind of overgrow you and take over and take the wheel, right? We've talked about what you did in 2022 and what you're going to do in 2023. And so what we'd like to ask now is, as you take a moment to reflect, what piece of our discussion today did you most connect to? What has really kind of changed or shifted something in your mind and is inspiring you to want to, make that change so that you can build to your blue moments of life?
You want us to answer now? Oh, well, I'm not sure if this is exactly just a specific thing that you said, but an idea that came to me was that can you see me okay? So I love the strong sunflowers idea. I love that beautiful flower that's always following the light, and like there's nothing more beautiful than a field full of flowers, any kind of flowers. But if you've ever had a sunflower grow in your own yard, you know that it doesn't happen overnight. It's tiny. It's just a little bean sprout first, and then it starts to shoot up. And then when the bloom comes, it's not in one day. I took still photographs of a sunflower opening over a week. And the first day it was a couple more. And it took the whole week for it to have that bloom moment. So it's not, and then it stays beautiful and bloomed for like most of the summer. For a month it could stay beautiful. So that bloom isn't just the destination that you're getting to, it's something that you get to enjoy for a whole summer. And then it's so beautiful to watch it happen again. So that's what I'm taking home tonight, that this is something that's everybody can enjoy and everybody can help others. It's a good thing.
I love that. I love that you've grown a sunflower. You're a step ahead of us. We've appreciated what they look like, but I think that's something in our future, G. We need to grow a sunflower. But it's so true, right? It's even a lot of times when we go to sunflower fields, we considered it kind of part of the stemming, because the petals will just, and sometimes it's like that Christina Aguilera song, You're Beautiful, where they're like, don't look at me. And it's like, it's like, you're almost there, just bloom, dang it. And they're like, I'm just gonna hang right here in my bulb. I'm scared, right? So I love that you bring up the phases, because it's such a good analogy to represent each and every one of our lives and our endeavors as we try to kind of accomplish the dreams and goals of our heart. So I love that that's what you're taking away, Nat. Flor, what resonates with you? What are you connecting with based on the conversation today?
I think literally just what you guys are talking about, what Natalie said about like blooming in stages, and then you saying how like we're right there, but sometimes we're like afraid to bloom and we just kind of want to stay in the stem. I kind of feel like I'm right there and I'm very scared. Like a part of me is very scared, but I know myself. I know the other part of me is like going to do it, but it's that in between limbo that I'm like just kind of there.
Yeah, sometimes we dim our petals just based on the environment we're in, whether it's our mental state or the people around us. And going back to that Oprah interview with Quinta Brunson from Abbott Elementary, she said that she has made a pact with herself that she will never dim herself, no matter who is in the room. Like, she will be her. And I think that's truly what my hope and dream is that no matter what room I walk into, even if somebody is judging me, even if somebody makes me feel less than in the moment, that I still lean into that light, that I still lean into those bright yellow petals that make me who I am. And it's something that's really, really hard to do. But I firmly believe that these tips and this mindset of being a strong-ass sunflower can help each of us show up more authentically in our life, more wholehearted. Last question is based on kind of your reflection on 2022 and your vision casting for 2023. What's one thing you're going to do today to continue towards your bloom moment?
I guess I can start. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow my routine that I set up for myself to succeed. So spending that spiritual time with God, because there's a lot of ideas in our heads, I think, and sometimes we kind of just do things out of emotion. So I'm gonna really lean into that direction.
Is it my turn?
It is, Nat. Go for it.
I don't know. I'm going to just get that rest that I need. Like, you always need to go put your head on the pillow and just pretend you're asleep before you get to be asleep. Like, you have to lay down when you tell yourself you're going to lay down, and don't push through and don't fight it, because you can always stay up till 2 a.m. You can always keep burning the candle. You can always keep d- burning your resources. Like, but you've it's better to have that rest and be ready for the next day and not be borrowing your minutes from the next day to pay back what you could have paid before. Like, I feel so bad for people that don't have healthy sleep. They've been doing it for years, it hasn't affected them, and now they can't sleep a full 6 hours. So I hope that everybody in our field can sleep when the sun goes down.
I love it. I needed to hear that. My husband's already yelling at me because I took a nap yesterday and could not go to sleep until 3 a.m. last night. And he's like, girl, and he sent me articles already. He's like, this is what happens when you don't sleep. I'm like, okay, Esteban, I'm going to go to bed at a decent hour. But sometimes, like, you just keep burning the candle. And so I needed to hear that. I think you were inspired to say that tonight because I literally needed to hear that again so that I remember to go to bed on time tonight. But thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation. I'm going to pass it back to G, who's just going to kind of close out and let you know about some upcoming things.
And I love how you guys talked about each and everything that you guys are working on, because as a Scorpio, Flora, you'll know this. It's like we are the problem, but we are also the solution. Like, I am my biggest enemy, but I am also like the superhero, like make everything okay. So it just depends what mood I am. Am I gonna self-sabotage today, or am I gonna live my best life? I don't know. I don't know. But for our next field trip, we're super excited. March, we actually started this podcast March 8th. 2 years ago it's gonna be, and we're so excited to share with you guys. The next field trip is gonna be all about self-love versus self-care. This is the number one tip, but we feel like it touches everything, and it's so important to dig into why is self-love important. Is it selfish? Are you doing the right thing when you're choosing yourself? Choose yourself every single time. But we're super excited to dig deeper into self-love, because I love me some self-love, because loving myself helps me show others how to love me. And that's very important. So we hope to see you guys on our next field trip. Thank you so much. And it's not going to be in Texas. It's still going to be online, so you can still make it. You don't have to fly out there. But we're going to have like two, a virtual and one in person in Texas. So we're really excited. But thank you so much for being in our field. We appreciate you. We're so thankful that we got to connect with you guys and learn about you guys and just share this beautiful thing that we call the Strong Sunflowers. Thank you for spending your time with us. Ciao.
Thank you, girls. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.